I'd like to call to order the Radcliffe City Council meeting at Colvin Community Center at Tuesday, January 21st at 6:30. If you will please rise as the invocation is given by Pastor Palmer and remain standing for our pledge.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you, we give you glory, we give you honor in this place. We're here to glorify you with all that we do. We're here to serve the citizenry of Radcliffe. We ask that you would give us wisdom, guidance as we conduct our business. We ask it and pray for those in harm's way that you would protect them and keep them safe. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Baker.
Present.
DeRoche. Here. Palmer.
Present.
Seabrooks. Present. Thompson.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Can we have consideration of minutes for December 17th, 2019, regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is a motion to approve the January 13th, 2020 work session minutes.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Well, welcome you all to our Radcliffe City Council meeting. Thank you all for coming back here to Colvin and joining us. At this time, I'll open it up for public comments. If anybody would like to come address the council, now is an opportunity for you to come up and say a couple words. David, I know you said at the beginning you had something. Did you have something you wanted to say today? You got about 3 minutes, so if I cut you off, don't worry about me.
I want to commend the city officials that are doing such a good job of keeping the city clean. I want to thank them.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it.
I am one that do not like to see litter, because I have idea that every litter bit hurts. Not every little bit, but every litter bit hurts. And I travel the streets on my tricycle, and I stop and pick up every piece of litter I pass.
I see you do it too.
And I want to encourage the youth to clean the city.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You good? Anything else you want to add for you? You good?
I do not want to take up your council meeting's time, but I have a project that I've been working on. It's in the development stage, and I need to speak to the council and the mayor to get their input and approval. And it is a subject I will not hide from telling the public that it is a interest of mine to develop a city garden that will be available to all people of Radcliffe. And it is a garden that will be added to annually as far as tree or bushes or seed, and there will be a board that will supervise the garden and promote interest, to provide interest to keep the garden producing yearly. And I think that idea of a city garden is good and they will help people's finances and it'll help with their diet and it will give them something to do and be involved in and I intend to make my garden project organic, no chemical, and do not feed everyone, but it will be open to nature and the elderly and the disabled and the young and the old and the smart and the dumb. It will not be discriminate against anybody.
Well, David, I appreciate your passion for it, and I know you come to City Hall all the time and visit, so sometime when you come in, we'll sit down and talk.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like that.
All right, sounds good, David.
Now,
I gotta move on though, David, so we'll.
yes, I know that,
All right.
and I will allow others to speak.
All right, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David. Anybody else? All right, we're gonna move on. For the first update item, we actually had Coach Thompson and his staff that was planning on being here tonight for the North Hardin football team. Coach unfortunately called me this morning and had a visit that he was going on with some of the kids there that were looking at going to college. So that's more important, obviously. And so he didn't know if he'd be back in time for the meeting, so we're going to reschedule him for next month. So we're just going to move on past that, but that's what the presentation was for, is to recognize them and their achievements they made this past year at North Hardin football. Next, we're going to move into new business, and we have our city planner here, Murray Warner. Murray, if you want to come up. Murray's going to talk a little bit about the annual report, and then talk about Murray's our census coordinator. And I know you've talked to several council members about this upcoming census, and so he's going to share with us where we are with that and some future updates. So, stand or have a seat.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Before I get started, I just want to let everyone know I'm going to put the display on the projector here. So if you want to just move around, I just don't want to shine that light in anyone's eyes. Okay, so I'm going to go over our annual report for 2019 for the planning department. The total construction for 2019 was $9,121,179. Just for reference, 2018 was about $7.5 million. The total building permits were 122. Building permits for new housing units were 23. Now, as far as total construction by category, the leading category was single-family detached housing at $2.8 million, or 30% of the total. Then we had non-residential additions, alterations, remodels at $2.2 million, 24%. Educational buildings at $1.3 million, or 15%. Residential additions, alterations, remodels, decks at $994,000, which was 10%. And then single-family attached at $822,000, 9%. Store and mercantile, $260,000 at 2%. And office and professional buildings at $195,000 and 2%. And this is just a pie chart that kind of goes over those top categories, showing it broke down. And as you can see, single-family detached in the orange on the right there is the largest category. Notable construction projects by category. In terms of single-family detached housing units, these were constructed in Southern Heights, Cowley Crossing, Auburn Hills, and Deerhaven Estates subdivisions. Now, non-residential additions, alterations, and remodels consisted of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers remodel, the KFC remodel, Navy Federal Credit Union, Fort Knox Federal Credit Union, Rural King Supply, IPAC, Modern Kids Dentistry, Doctors, and Homeless Intervention Services remodels. So quite a bit of remodeling that was done this past year on commercial properties and industrial IPAC. Notable construction projects by category continued included educational building construction, such as the Central Kentucky Head Start Preschool, which is over there on Logan and Wilson, and the North Hardin Indoor Practice Facility, which is an indoor batting cage. Single-family attached housing units were constructed exclusively in Cali Crossing subdivision, and store and mercantile construction consisted of the Red Bell Cutlery Store. Other notable construction included a single permit for a new cell tower over on Elm Road. So that is actually a summary of construction for 2019. Does anyone have any questions, input?
Can you email us a copy of this slide?
Sure, yeah, I
Appreciate
can
it.
do that.
That's why I didn't write it all down, because
Okay,
You want to ask me?
I can do that. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss the census. Okay, next topic of discussion is the United States Census 2020. Now, as far as a background, the U.S. Census in 2010 reported a total population for Radcliffe of 21,688 people. The 2017 American Community Survey conducted by the Census Bureau, five-year population estimate for Radcliffe was 22,718 population. And the 2018 population estimate as of July 1st, 2018 for Radcliffe was 22,952. So as you can see, we're projecting in and around 23,000, somewhere around there is what we look to have most likely. The purpose of the census is that census results are used to reapportion the U.S. House of Representatives, determining how many seats each state gets. Census results are used by state officials to redraw the boundaries of the congressional and state legislative districts to account for population shifts. Census results affect the distribution of $675 billion in federal funds to support states, counties, and communities. These funds are spent on roads, schools, hospitals, public works, and other vital programs. The local impact of the census is that Kentucky receives $15.8 billion annually, and a study from George Washington University estimated that this represents $2,021 for each person counted in Kentucky each year, and $20,210 for each person every 10 years. So you can see that's a lot of value for a single person. For a family of five, this totals $10,105 for 1 year, or $101,050 for a family for 10 years. So as you can see, it's important to get every single person. Businesses use the census to decide where to build factories, offices, and stores, which creates jobs. Real estate developers use the census to decide where to build new houses and where to revitalize existing neighborhoods. In terms of an overview of the U.S. Census 2020, it actually began in January of 2017, if you can imagine that it goes that far back. So when people say, well, why do we only do a census every 10 years? Well, the process begins 3 years before the census, and in fact, the results are not published until a year after. They won't be available to the public until 2021. So to gather, compile, and produce all this data, it's a long process. Advanced notification of the LUCA, Local Update of Census Addresses operation, was mailed to tribal chairs, governors, highest elected officials, or appointed officials of all eligible governments. regional agencies, and former LUCA contacts. LUCA is the only opportunity offered to tribal, state, and local governments to review and comment on the U.S. Census Bureau's residential address list for their jurisdiction prior to the 2020 census. The Census Bureau relies on a complete and accurate address list to reach every living quarters and associated population for inclusion in the census. In February through April of 2018, there was a review phase of LUCA materials which were delivered to registered participants. Participants had 120 calendar days from the date of receipt to review, update, and return their materials to the Census Bureau. So that included the city of Radcliffe. We had to take their address list and use local sources to verify what they had on record. And we were fortunate enough to have data from Hardin County 911, who goes out and actually takes a handheld GPS unit and goes out to the physical location of every single housing unit in the county and enters it in, and then it's produced on a map. And in addition, all those addresses are logged in a database via a spreadsheet associated with all those data points on the map. So that was a major component of us verifying the address list using those resources. Also, we used resources within the planning department, street file records, those types of things. So it was pretty extensive, and the entire department pitched in with that review. So it took a bit of time. 120 days seems like a long time, but when you realize just how much data there is, just for example, I asked Chance for a little bit of input one day, and I said, "Hey Chance, I'm working on sorting this data here," and he said, "I can't even see the screen."
It's all that little on the screen.
Yeah, like it was not even visible to read, not legible. So that's how much data was there. Through July through September of 2019, there was a feedback phase of materials provided to participants, which was the LUCA appeal phase. And we did file an appeal and were successful. In September of 2019, there was a mail-in review of the new construction program materials to participants. Participants have 45 calendar days from the receipt of materials to complete the review. The new construction program is the opportunity for participants to submit city-style mailing addresses for new units where construction began during or after March 2018. So that original list went through through March of 2018, and any new construction was not part of that list. We had to actually add that back in through the new construction program. So we used building permits data and added that data in that was after the list was produced originally. Now, in March of 2020, the public can begin responding to the 2020 census online at 2020census.gov. Replying by mail or phone will also be an option. April 2020, every 10 years we observe Census Day on April 1st. June through July of 2020, census takers go door to door to count people who have not responded to the 2020 census. Census takers are Census Bureau employees and will provide proof that they are government personnel. That way, you know that they're official government personnel. On December 31st, 2020, the Census Bureau reports to the President of the United States the population count and the apportionment of the seats in the U.S. House of Representatives to each state. Census privacy: it's against the law for the Census Bureau to publicly release your responses in any way that could identify your household. And by law, the Census Bureau cannot share your answers with any other government agency. Census response is legally mandated, and there's a penalty for failure to respond, being up to $5,000. The penalty for intentionally providing false information is up to $10,000. So it's not optional. But really, the Census Bureau they want people to reply online. That is the primary goal, to get the most responses online. Now you can do it online or by phone or mail. So if you look, March 2020, 2020 census.gov up there at the top. So they, as stated there, they want to gather most of the responses online if they can do it. It simplifies things. And they obviously don't want to go out to your house and count people. But as well, that's why that address list is important, so they know where to go. And in addition, it's not common for people to have penalties against them as described here. I could only find one record anecdotal of a guy who did face a penalty, and I think before the 1980s and the 70s, the penalties were 100 and 500 respectively, and there was a gentleman who refused to disclose certain economic information on the survey, and I think he had a $100 penalty and had to go to court. So that was all I could really find. So they don't make a point to go after people with these penalties, but they do want people to respond. I think the last census in 2010, I want to say they had about a 75 to 79% response rate. It's actually pretty high for any survey. It's really high. And what I've seen is that they're looking at about 67% estimated for the census. That's kind of what they're estimating the response rate to be. So a little bit lower, but I'm sure that obviously their goal is 100% as they've told us. So that concludes that presentation, and we're also still working on the census. There's a Hardin Counts Committee, which is a CCC, as the Bureau refers to it as Complete Census Count Committee. And what we're doing is we're trying to target hard-to-count populations as one of our goals, and also putting out blitzes to make people aware that the census is coming soon. So as you've seen our Facebook, we've been putting posts on there, some videos. That's part of the committee's undertaking. Certain things we're trying to do. We've got posters up at City Hall. We have brochures in the lobby, just to kind of make people aware of it.
And Marty will put the paper.
Just to kind of make people aware of it and the importance of it. And also, well, I did an interview last week with Hardin County TV about the census, so that should be made available pretty soon. But the hard-to-count populations, HTCs as they're referred to, they're actually children 5 years or under the age of 5, are the most undercounted. The second is children 5 to 9. I guess people just forget about counting their children.
Forget you have them.
And other populations that are hard to count, veterans, believe it or not. With us being, a community next to Fort Knox with a lot of veterans, that's very important that the veterans respond. So that's actually a target area for us. As well, students, seniors.
What do we do about the homeless?
Homeless, we also try to count the homeless. So if there are, that was part of the address list, if there's known areas where the homeless are residing, like for example, a homeless shelter or something along those lines, the Census Bureau classifies that as like a group quarters, which there's a lot of different group quarters. A college dorm would be a group quarters. So there's really a lot of those areas, like a shelter, a homeless shelter would be classified as such. So that's one way to count them. Also, if there's like a known communal, like encampment or something like that, then you can even document those things. So,
So they count everything, including the
everything,
homeless.
yes, they try to get every single person.
will you share with the council, because there's always that concern that comes up about, you know, we have a Vine Grove address in the city limits of Ratcliffe, we have Elizabethtown address in the city limits of Ratcliffe, we have Vine Grove parts that have Ratcliffe addresses. So will you explain how that works as far as the SOS, the lines, and then how the council, just so everybody knows that we are counted, and it is counted within our city limits, not necessarily.
Okay, so as part of how that address list is created, we send our data to the Secretary of State, which is a city limit boundary, and it's a GIS file. And the census also has a copy of that. So when they send us the address list, you could have various zip codes because sometimes within Radcliffe jurisdiction, you might have Vine Grove zip codes, vice versa, things like that. Part of our task with coding with the address list was to verify that all of them are in the city and not in other jurisdictions. So there was coding that we had to use to make sure that certain areas were in or out, and we had to identify them. And then they would actually take those responses and look at, say, what Vine Grove response is. So we might have had like a big block that street wasn't even in Radcliffe. And we had to note that it was outside our jurisdiction. So, yeah, we had to look at that as well.
So what do you do with a street that's not in either city limits, but may have like a Radcliffe address, county vacancy?
Well, if it's not in our city limits, it would be out of jurisdiction. So we just had to code it. So, you know, if they had like 50 or 100 addresses for a street that wasn't even in Radcliffe city limits based off our boundary, then we would have to code it accordingly, geocode as they refer to as, and we would have to indicate that it's not in our city.
It's a long process. I remember when you started this, I remember Murray walked in my office a while ago. I mean, this is back in 17.
Yeah.
So
It
it's
took
a lot of work.
but you know, thankfully we had great city staff to help out with working on that, and then, you know, getting the resources from Hardin County 911 was really helpful too. Yeah.
Anybody on this side have any questions?
I have questions.
Yeah, we can ask, you can ask them after the meeting, David, if that's all right. Yeah, it's okay. Okay.
No, I spoke to Maria one
Yeah.
the other day. We had a conversation, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim, Chris, good.
Thank you, Mary, for doing all that you
And
have
then,
with that.
Murray, if you will, or have Ashley just scan that, and then we can email it to all the council, and the ones that want a hard copy can come get it. That's
And what is his name again?
all. All right, Murray.
All right, thank you.
Just shut that mic off, Murray. I'll wait for Ashley to get up here. Next, we have on new business, the consideration approval of a surplus. And that surplus is the benches that we took out of the council room. There's about 12 of them. And so there's been several ideas, several people have asked about them. And so, you know, the only way we can do anything with them is if we surplus them. I didn't know if the council had any ideas, but ultimately there's 12. They are solid, they are original, they're heavy. Took about 4 guys to carry them out.
Each one?
Yeah. They're solid, I mean, they're
Yeah,
solid oak.
it's good work.
So that's what the surplus consideration is, to do anything with them, to move them, sell them, or anything like that. We just need to,
And you check to make sure no other departments or buildings in the city could use those?
not that I'm aware of. Even if we surplus them and we decide that there is somebody, then we can give 1 or 2 away or whatever. I don't think anybody at Saunders Springs or anything out there, so not wait, I mean, they're not made for outside.
No, they're not outside benches.
Do you? I don't know, I guess the only
I
one.
didn't catch what you were.
The council benches that were in the council room. Ed, do you know any, I mean,
The
church audience?
pews, the pews at the audience center.
But I mean, do you know anything from church? Do you have any yours?
I do.
You still have them?
24
Yeah. So I just, you know,
So we would be reselling them.
we'd probably be listing them in pairs of 2 and try to sell them and group them. not a whole lot of them, but I'm sure there's somebody that would want.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we surplus the pews from the council chambers.
Second.
Motion second. You make Barbara, we want to keep one for nostalgia.
We almost bought how many rooms?
Make it a seating.
Yeah, somebody's place to stone.
Yeah, we can sort it out how it works.
But
So,
I can already tell you, you end up being the trash in the building. She can't sell. I got rid of the ones in our small centers and end up giving them to the church out in Ogdenville.
yeah.
It's a specialized product. Unless somebody's building a church and want old, non-padded pews,
They want chairs.
so I don't know that it's beneficial to us to surplus them, store them, and then get to the inevitable, and that is burn them or get rid of them. So, I'm inclined to just say, either find somebody, put them on eBay for giveaway, somebody will come get them.
Yeah.
How many are there?
I can tell you right now, they're not gonna sell.
12.
I was just saying, just looking at the way, and I have to agree with Councilman Palmer, most churches or anybody using pews, they're going to chairs. So you would just be just sitting there, just keeping it.
But you can connect the chairs, we can how long we want to show up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we still need to surplus them.
Yeah, to get rid of them, yeah, have to. Yeah. So we have a motion second. If you don't have any other discussion, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Baker,
Yes.
DeRoche,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Seabrooks,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Carries. All right, that brings us to the mayor council comments. Chris, I'll start with you last time. I started with Barbara last time, so I'll start with you. You got anything you want to add about the North Harbor?
I do want to mention, again, this weekend, North Arden Baseball is having a Dream Banquet fundraiser. It is Saturday, January 25th, 6 p.m., North Arden High School. Tickets are $25. That includes a meal provided by the Kentucky pork producers. Senator Dennis Parrott will also do a live auction following the meal. Again, it's all the money goes directly towards North Arden Baseball. So, anybody would like to come out, tickets $25, and get them at the door.
Saturday at 6 o'clock.
All you guys running, good opportunity, meet a lot of people. Come out, spend a little bit of money.
At the mayor's breakfast.
You too, Ed, it's not going to hurt you, you can't run.
When is it?
Saturday, January 25th. Same day as your breakfast.
That morning, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it, yeah.
The GPS soccer team played their first indoor soccer game this last weekend, and they won 7-4. Pretty proud of them.
You know which grade that, or which age group that was?
I think it was 11, 12, something like that.
Councilman?
January 30th, that's next Thursday, the Entrepreneurship Academy kickoff will be taking place at the JSO building at the Elizabethtown Community College. Anyone who is currently an entrepreneur, 5 years or less, or someone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, you're welcome to come to the kickoff. Find out more details about what the class encompasses. It'll be a 6-week course this year that'll start March the 12th, and it'll go to April 30th. It is a free class. It's a partnership with Citizens Union Bank, SBDC, and Elizabethtown Community College, and also Hampton Inn. So we invite all those who are interested, 6 to 8 at the JSO building at the Morrison Gallery on January 30th. Second thing, in conjunction with what Murray Warner just did with his presentation, we are hosting here at the Copa Community Center on February 4th from 6 to 8 in the larger room. It'll be a public forum around the census so that there will be some questions answered. And we have a few representatives from the Census Bureau that will actually be here, understanding the importance of, like as he mentioned, the veteran count, also the minority count. That plays a big role when it comes to recruiting different jobs. Most corporations are looking for those two pots, and with our community being as diverse as it is, we need to be able to understand why that count matters outside of us. So after a great conversation with Murray, who will actually be in attendance in Hardin County counts, we will definitely be making sure that that conversation is held a little bit more informal with a lot of our community, so you all are welcome to come out and attend that night. That's all I have.
On January 31st at 11 o'clock, 911 Express Tech is opening their, well, will have a ribbon cutting on behalf of Radcliffe Small Business Alliance. But they have actually opened their second location at 5146 North Dixie, which has an Elizabethtown address, but I believe that's still in the city of Radcliffe, City Limits? Or is that East Limits? Okay. And then on February 7th, Maria's Bazaar is having a ribbon cutting at noon at 661 South Wilson Road here in Radcliffe.
Councilwoman?
It's just the mayor's breakfast. I gave you the paper.
Hold on.
Can I do it online?
You can do one, go ahead, while I'm doing this.
Okay, February 14th, I get called in center. GPS is hosting a murder mystery. Tickets are almost sold out, so if you're interested in something like that, you might want to go online and try to get your ticket now. There's also a band that will be playing, I believe, afterwards. If you want to hang around and dance, it is Valentine evening. So, tickets are, I say about 90% sold.
Before I do the mayor's breakfast, I want to thank everyone that came out and supported the community events this past Monday for MLK. We had the banquet down in Elizabethtown, and then we had the walkout here. Pretty good turnout for it being 18 degrees outside. Yeah, I want to thank my counterparts at the other communities, Mayor Ogden and Mayor Gregory for participating and walking. Then also want to thank Pastor Craig and the Calvary District for their support and being there. And then I got to witness Tanya get the spirit hitter in the middle of St. Stephen's. She's come unglued. I've never seen that side of Tanya, so that was good, Tanya. So we had a great turnout, and it turned out very well. So we thank everybody that came out and participated in all those events. Then this weekend, we have the 10th Annual Mayor's Breakfast. That's this Saturday, January 25th, at 9 to 11 here at Colvin Community Center. It's all free to the public, as it always been in the past. Tons of breakfast foods, and it's all free, provided by the community. And then we have a ton of door prizes that we pass out, and that usually lasts pretty long. So hopefully we get the same amount this year. So we're excited about that. So come out again, 10th annual, and we have all the mayors from the other cities will be here, the Garrison County, Fort Knox. A lot of our people running for office. So it gives people an opportunity to fellowship and get to meet and share some good food and some fellowship. Real quick, I just want to touch Thomas Boggs, if you're still watching. We are in a business meeting. I can't answer your question as soon as you send it, but I'm going to answer it now. I would like for you to come in, if you're still watching, and sit down with me and talk about the Red Mar project rather than try to go into a huge detail right here in this meeting. There's so much to talk about with that project. Two of the council women actually came in, the developer was in, and Councilwoman Seabrooks and Councilwoman Barbara Baker had asked to have a meeting just so they can get an update and share that with you guys whenever that's appropriate. I had a conference call this morning. We have a meeting tomorrow with the developer, as well as a meeting next week. So there's a lot of still moving parts in that. We have done what we needed to do as a mayor and council as far as moving that project and that TIF forward. It's right now in the developer's hands. We're waiting for him to get through what he needs to get through to present that project back to us so we can vote and move forward with that. I know we all want it right now, but it is a very large project, and we're about a year just so over. And so, Thomas, if you're watching, I encourage you to either send me a private message on Facebook. You can call 270-351-4714. You can ask for Ashley and set that meeting up. But I encourage people that want to know more about the project or curious about the project, you're more than welcome to come in, set a meeting up, and I'll be more than happy with you, Thomas, to sit down and go over that project and discuss. So I hope you got that message. If not, hopefully somebody will share that with you. And then with that, I don't know if there's anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all.